After a pretty tumultuous Season 1, probably one of the worst for the state-only challenges, this team finished a lofty 2-15. Most of the season, there wasn't a whole lot happening, and about the halfway point, we started to focus on some of the younger guys and started to see some breakout talent, like Wicks at receiver, who was actually in the second place running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But really the best game came in Week 18 against a rival in the Cowboys, who we almost knocked out of the playoffs after we did get a surprising win. But as we've come to the start of this episode, we do start our first off season with the Cowboys making the playoffs 9-8, winning the division. If the Eagles managed to win their last game of the season, they maybe would have made it in instead of the Cowboys, but like mentioned, we finished bottom 2-15. We won 2 home games, we lost 6, and every single road game that we have, we lost, which was 9. So we played more on the road this last season than we did at home, just slightly, but maybe that was a part of why we weren't good, but probably not. But Season 1 ended with a massive win for the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, 35-7, taking on the Colts. Seahawks get their second Super Bowl championship, with the MVP being Patrick Mahomes. Nothing all too shocking there. You can see over to the right-hand side the award winners. We really didn't have anyone in the running besides Wicks, who, like I said, was second in the voting for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. We also had Douglas, the other receiver, a little bit further down the list. I want to say he was around 8 or 9, but that was it. No one else for us was even in the running. Maybe Teller for offensive line, but even that, not really. So Season 1 was not good. But with this being the offseason, it's time to change that and try to build upon this team where it is possible. Now, we had taken a look at the draft class before the end of last episode, and it didn't look all too intriguing. Again, we could only draft players from the eligible schools, Virginia's only, and there's a whopping 13 players. Now, of those 13 players, there's only 3 draftable, and there is the top guy in Richardson, another running back, and potentially we do go with another running back. We're going to focus primarily on heavy run, a lot of 2 receiver, 2 tight end sets, maybe a tight end and a fullback. So a lot of running, and it's going to be helpful if we have multiple running backs. Now, Clifton Richards is an interesting guy because he's listed, if you look over at this main screen, as an elusive back at 5'10", 212. But when you look at the physicals and the skill set, he looks more like a power back with solid to good speed. The strength isn't very high, so that's also a little bit confusing. Does have some decent change of direction, agility, jumping also apparently supposed to be good, which tells me he has some strength. But then you look at the skill set and more so at the moves. He has D juke, C spin, but then B trucking. So again, that tells me he's a power back with some decent hands. He has some decent pass blocking ability if we really need that. Carrying, break tackle's good. Ball carrier vision is really good with an A. However, injury is a D, so even if he is drafted and he's maybe a higher overall than Herbert, we'll probably still stick with Herbert as the number 1 guy just due to that injury. Try to split that up as best as we can. Past Richards, though, you have to really go down our list here until we get over to the defensive side. And there's a day 3 corner in Clyde Logan. Depth guy, really, at best. And then there's another day 3 safety in Grant Fowler, who again would be a depth guy. So there's not much for us in the draft itself. So we're going to be looking mostly at free agency. We'll get through the draft probably pretty quickly, maybe trading back a lot of picks or using our picks to maybe trade for players who aren't free agents. And then we're going to include a little bit at the end, some playbook building. Show you guys my thought process of why I'm building the playbook the way I am, due to the roster and kind of how that all works. So a little bit of offseason, a little bit of free agency, a little bit of draft, and a little bit of some playbook creation. So with all that said, let's actually jump into the first bit of, well, offseason. And for us, that is retirees. We actually had 3 retirees. This team is very reliant on veteran players. And we had 3 of those starters. Actually, I'm not sure if, no, Rodney McLeod was not a starter, but he was fairly involved. But at least 2 starters retired in Vinnie Curry and Dwayne Brown. So we have a needed offensive line and a need at least at a backup safety spot that obviously we just had a safety we looked at in the draft who maybe could fill in that spot. We'll see. Now next, we need to try to re-sign some players. Now I expected Geno Smith would regress, and he did a little bit, but not that much. However, he did lose his development trait, so he's now down to a normal. But Geno still has some pretty good accuracies, and again, we're gonna go more run heavy. So the short accuracy is probably the best one that we're gonna, or the most important one that we're gonna look at. I wish medium and deep were switched. Throw power is perfect for keeping things short, still has some agility and acceleration, so I think we'll probably have Geno still be a starter for us next year, as long as, well, he wants to come back, and there's not a lot of interest. And right now they say a decent contract offer for him would be about 25 mil for one season. So that's what we're putting forth here. Not a lot of interest, so let's actually bump up the bonus to 13. We'll make an offer. And apparently he loved it, so maybe I didn't need to bump it up, but we have QB1 for now. Now obviously going to talk about this separate to making signings. We had Willis starting later on, but he threw like double the amount of interceptions to touchdowns. So we're going to stick with Geno for this next year, and if again it's not going well, then we're going to put in Willis once again. Now a lot of these guys that don't have a lot of interest, we're not going to look to bring back. Carl Joseph was a safety. I turned into a linebacker because we needed depth. He is interested, and maybe we'll come back to him later on. But essentially anyone who's not interested or is on the older side, we're just not going to look to bring back right now, and unfortunately that's a lot of these guys. So there's really not much work for us to do outside of signing Geno. And we are going all out in open free agency with the highest overall player we could currently find being a veteran safety, most likely to be depth, in DeAndre Houston Carson, who played at William and Mary. So really not a whole lot for us even here in free agency. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, and however many people we're able to bring in is however many people we're able to bring in. And here is our free agent class. Again, still the highest overall is Houston Carson, but we did just go through and basically anyone that I found from any of the schools, we just went ahead and signed. So I'm going to just go through this. You could pause, take a look if you want to just see more information on these guys, but we went through and signed a lot of guys. Now, are these guys all going to play the positions where they were signed for? Probably not. Probably going to have to move some guys around, but overall, we at least picked up a mass amount of depth, and hopefully some of these guys will make a name for themselves. But now, just a couple more minutes away from the start of the draft, we have 3 guys we could choose if we want to find out more information on them. And actually, it seems like the day 3 talent, that it showed day 3 talent earlier in Clyde Logan, he's actually moved up to around 3 to 4, so he must have had a good pro day. We'll take a look at him in a moment. I would like to finish up the scouting here on Grant Fowler, just again to decide where he's actually supposed to go. And then for all of these undrafted guys, do any of them look intriguing? And for outside linebacker, saying pass coverage of a C, no, not really. A run stopper with D block shed, no. A DT with D's across the board, not very intriguing. A left end with B power moves is interesting. So let's put Leo Bush on the board out of Marshall. We do potentially need some help at depth offensive lineman, and there's potential here with Van Buren, so I'll put him on there for now. As for receivers, we do have 3 different options, and none of them look fantastic, so I'm not going to bother putting anything in there. And then the fullback we might just draft because we need a fullback, and I couldn't find one. So yeah, I think that's going to be the 3 guys for us, so we'll select that, and hopefully we'll find out more information on them. And we'll also take a look at the mock drafts. And really the main guy that we need to find information on for the draft, why does it have us with going with a fullback at the top end? And no, we need to find out where our running back is supposed to go and see if maybe we could drop back in the draft and kind of go from there, as I still have not seen him on here yet. They say he's a round 1 talent, as he is 31st going to the Colts. So we could almost drop, not entirely out of the first round, but maybe down to about the 25th or so pick, and still be able to pick up the running back. which is something we may end up doing, and that might get us another first-round pick next year with hopefully a better draft class. Fingers crossed. But as for those other guys that we did try to get a little bit more information on, did we? We did not. We looked at Van Buren, and he's up to a 90% completion, so we know a good bit about him. He went up 116 spots throughout the season, but he is still a potential undrafted talent. From the physical standpoint, though, decent strength there. Everything else, not fantastic. His skill set, he's not a good run blocker, and he struggles with pass block finesse, but does have the A pass block with B pass block power, so at least could be decent depth, probably at best. As for Leo Bush, again up to 90, finding out a little bit more information on him. Did go up 54 spots throughout the season. His physicals, not very fast, not super strong. Already thinking depth kind of player here, but with some upside with that B power moves. He's not going to have finesse moves, not going to be a great block shedder, but we do need some depth along the defensive line to help out. So most likely we'll end up with Leo Bush one way or another, whether it's he's drafted or we pick him up after the draft. As for this safety, he is 100% a potential undrafted. As for Clyde Logan, who did go up again to that round 3 to 4, however, he dropped 67 spots throughout the season, so controversy there. Decent speed, decent strength. Overall, I would say decent athlete here. His skills, B block shed, B catching, B press. The cover rating struggle with D zone, C man. What is his size? 5'10", 189. He's not going to be a strong safety, that's for sure. Maybe a developmental slot guy. So we'll probably end up picking him up at some point. Maybe 4th round might be a good time to chime in for him. So really for the draft, we know we could trade down from our 2nd overall pick to around the 25th or so, still picking up Richards. And then from there, we probably don't need to do anything until the 4th round pick. And maybe pick up some of these guys in the draft, maybe not. So we have some draft picks we could at least stockpile up for next year, making some trades, or trading for potential players. So let's get the draft started and go from there. And it is the Houston Texans up first. Now, who do they go with? As we pause the draft, I always just make sure to pause the draft. Houston Texans with a 1, go with Jeff Lashley, a right outside linebacker out of Auburn. Now for us, again, we're going to try to trade this pick away. Don't need to take the running back this high, just means we have to pay more for him. Now again, we're looking for a 1st round pick in 2024. And while this one would be honestly pretty good to pick up with the Bills, just dropping a few spots, we would pick up a 2nd next year, a current 3. I'm looking for a little bit later on this year, maybe some better picks for next year. So this one isn't too bad here with the Minnesota Vikings. We drop down to the 21st pick this year, pick up a 1st next year and a 1st in 2026, then pick up a 3rd and a 4th next year and a 7th in 2026. So that one right now on the top of the board. And after looking through all of them, this is the best pick. So once again, we'll be dropping back to 21, still well higher, 10 spots higher than where they suspected he would go. Pick up a 1st not only next year, but the season after. And then picking up a 3rd and a 4th next year and a 7 in 2026. So I think that's a really good haul. Vikings giving up a lot. So we'll make that trade. Let's see who they traded all of that up for. Honestly, I don't know what the team looks like in this universe, but let's take a look. As we look to the next one, they go with quarterback James Rose out of Nevada. We'll have to take a look at him at the end just to see if his talent was worth making all of that trade all the way up for. Now from here, I think we just straight up jump ahead to our pick. That running back should not go. Again, suspected that he would go in that 31st spot. So let's jump to our next user pick. And it actually did that extremely quickly. So that's awesome. Make our selection. Our running back should still be there. And indeed, he is the 2nd running back still left on the board, though there's 4 guys all in that suspected same round. So Clifton Richards. I don't think we looked at his combine stuff yet. He ran about a 4.445, has decent strength, good vert, pretty good broad jump, decent quickness and acceleration. I mean, we're going to have a run-heavy offense, so Clifton Richards, hope you're ready to get going as he's a hidden Dev, our first tier in Madden 24, 91 speed, 85 jumping, 87 change of direction with 90 agility and change and acceleration, 70 strength. I think they'll be just fine at running back. And then we now have ourselves a solid 1-2 punch. Now from here, I think we maybe look to make some trades. We have the second pick in the second round and no one to pick up with that spot. So let's take a look around the league and see who's interested. Now I do think we need some help at the cornerback spot. We have our 1 and 2. They're on the older side. This would be another older guy, 29 years old for Kendall Fuller, but would put the brothers together as we do have Kyle Fuller. He's a star dev. He still has some really good rating. Speed isn't fantastic. As for his regression history or progression history, I don't see anywhere here showing that he lost any dev traits, so I think this is probably the best spot for us to go after and probably one of the highest overall players for us to go after. So let's see if the Bears would be interested in making a trade here for us. We'll give them the second round pick. We'll ask for Kendall Fuller, and just to get a better gauge here on what they're looking for, let's add in a future 4. I feel like that might be a decent haul here for us, but they think it's a little too much to ask for. So if we remove the future 4 and just submit this offer, they are very much viewing him highly. They're asking for more than just a second round pick, which we can give up. But what do we need to package with it? Maybe a 5? How much does that move it? Not much. So they're asking for actually some really good haul here for him. If we give him the 3, because we don't need the 3. There's no one for us to go after until at least the 4th round. That will get the job done. So we do bring in Kendall Fuller. We now have the Fuller brothers, and we lose our second and third round pick, but we need all the help we can get with no one to draft. I think it's worth. And with that second round pick, let's just see who the Bears go with. Dwight Harrison, a free safety. So they bring in a different DB at a different position to replace the one they just traded. But as we jump all the way down to the 4th round here, let's see if that corner is still on the board here for us, and if we really do want to go his way. And yeah, he's still here, Clyde Logan, around 3 to 4 talent, picking him right smack dab in the middle of that. And, you know, he has some decent speed. I think he would be all right. Good agility and acceleration. Not a great jumper, though, which is interesting. And, you know, developmental, we need some depth. We need someone to try to develop at corner. Obviously not going to be starting with the trade for Kendall Fuller. But let's go after Clyde Logan here, a normal dev with 89 speed, 79 jumping, 87 change of direction, 88 agility, and 92 excel. Now in the 5th round, there's definitely no one really left for us to go after. So let's take a look at our roster and see where there might be positions we need to address, specifically going with the new style of offense we're going for. I think we'll be good at running back. We do need to pick up that fullback, but he should be available after the draft. There's really no other receivers for us to go after, plus we really want to focus on Wicks. I think he could be pretty solid for us, and then we have a few other guys all around the same overall to help out. I do think we need to address the possibility of bringing in a better tight end. Because right now our highest overall is Mo Alley Cox, a 30-year-old. Past him, we have Logan Thomas, 33-year-old. There is Dalton Keene that we did get playing a little bit last year. Played a little bit more at fullback as well, so we'll see what we could do there. We did also bring in Trayvon Wesco. And if there are any other offensive linemen for us to bring in, that's definitely something we might need to look into. A lot of these guys are either on the older side or just not very highly rated. So some work to do on the offensive line as well. And what I'm feeling like we might do with all the first round picks that we did pick up is that we'll wait to pull the trigger now. But I would like to possibly bring in Christian Darrisaw once we get to the regular season and see what the next draft class looks like, because then we'll have a lot more flexibility, and he's one of the best possible guys for us to bring in. Out of Virginia Tech, we could use him for sure. Now the next best tight end for us to try to bring in is Jelani Woods. Now he's more so of a catching downfield kind of guy, but does have at least some run blocking ability, though not going to be fantastic. But with us having multiple different tight ends, fullbacks as well, I think this would be a decent spot for us to try to make a trade. He's in his 3rd year, so the Chargers may be asking for a fair bit for him, but let's just see what they're interested in. Just a straight up 5th round pick. Where does that put us? Just gauging interest, and they'll actually just straight up take it. So we bring in Jelani Woods. Now with us just having 2 more picks left in this draft class, there are a couple different ways we could go about this. Hoping that the potential undrafteds will turn into free agents, undrafted free agents, we can just pick them up no problem. Or we could try to find the best of the bunches and secure them now. Now, if we were going to do that, it would probably be for someone like Leo Bush, just because we need that depth along the defensive line, and we know he at least has that B power moves. We don't necessarily need the depth for the offensive line, however, we do not have a current fullback, nor have I been able to find one. So Gavin Schroeder, I think is how that's pronounced, might be a necessity for us. So I think we're just going to go ahead and pull the trigger on some of these guys. Leo Bush, we just want to make sure we could bring in some of these potential undrafteds. They may still be available after, but I don't want to risk it. So Leo Bush will be a 6th round pick with 81 strength, 72 speed, and 77 acceleration. We'll play around with where we line him up along the defensive line, but we need some young depth up there for sure. And you may have guessed it with that 7th round pick, Gavin Schroeder. Yeah, Schroeder. Didn't even look much at him at all. He's not super fast, decent strength. I mean, all around for a fullback, he's actually a pretty good athlete. For the skill set, he's not a great lead blocker. Hopefully he could do a decent job, though. He does have a run block power, so he brings some power to the table, and right now we don't have a single fullback. We've been using tight ends and running backs, so it's an upgrade. Gavin Schroeder with our 7th round pick is a 77 strength player with 77 speed, 78 acceleration, 83 agility, 72 change direction. Don't ask him to jump. But we now have a fullback who will not be wearing number 16. But now time to see what this draft looks like, and actually I don't think it's all too bad. Clifton Richards is a 74 overall with that hidden dev. His ratings are as followed: 91 speed, which we saw. The break tackle only a 75. I expected that to be a little bit higher. Same with ball carrier vision at an 83. That was an A rating. So some intrigue there, and actually he's a very well balanced running back with 80 juke, 77 spin, and 80 trucking. Stiff arm is low, but fine. Catching, solid. The injury was on the lower side. I believe it was a F rating, and it is 83. So he's definitely not going to be the starter for us, but I think he will do just fine. We are going to edit his number because I don't like number 9 for a running back. If you're curious on my favorite options for running backs, I like 5, 21, and 32. And 21 is the only one available. So there we go. Clifton Richard will be rocking 21. As for the corner, Clyde Logan is a 68 overall. Normal dev, we're rocking 25. I'm fine with that number. His ratings definitely need some work, but he has a decent starting off spot for a potential slot guy. And that's probably where he's best going to fit, is in that slot spot. As for Leo Bush, a guy that we did take a shot on, he's only a 60 overall. Expected that to be a little bit higher, like a 64, but it is what it is. He's coming in with 71 power moves. Again, that was, I believe it was a B. Block shedding was either a C or a D, and that's a 68, so those are actually pretty close. We expected no finesse moves, and yeah, he doesn't have finesse moves. He's a depth guy for sure. Fine by me. And then the fullback in Schroeder, 44, much better than the 16 we saw earlier. Lead block of a 70 with run block 65. I think that'll be just fine. Occasionally we might hand it off to him with 72 trucking, does have 69 carrying. Impact block of a 68, I think he'll do just fine, helping lead the way for our running backs. And as for the Vikings, they gave up so many first round picks for a 73 overall quarterback in James Rose. But at least he is a hidden dev. As for his ratings, good throw power, gonna start off with pretty decent deep accuracy, needs to work across the board with his accuracies, a little bit of some mobility out there, decent injury ratings. We'll see how he ends up doing, but I think it is funny to see that in the second round, they go with a tight end who's actually a higher overall and also a hidden dev. Wearing 4. Interesting number choice, and he seems like a decent tight end, but 74 speed is definitely going to hold him back. And now jumping past preseason to week 1, we could take a look at what our next draft class looks like. And it's similar size, 12 instead of I think 13 last time. And we do have a quarterback around 2 to 3, so maybe a little bit of some competition between most likely Willis, as I would expect Gino's going to regress if not retire after this next season. So hopefully Webster ends up being good and jumps up from a projected round 2 to 3 to a round 1 would be fantastic. As for the rest of the offense, really the rest of the talent is at left guard with 2 Virginia left guards, Miles Sloan and Dante Harden. Both of them round 3 to 4 projections. Hopefully they pan out because we do need some help along the offensive line, which we'll talk about shortly. As for the defensive side, we really needed help along the defensive line, and there's only one guy, potential undrafted, so that's unfortunate. One linebacker, but there are some talented guys here in the DB group. A round 1 to 2 projection in Jamie French. Do we need that? I don't know. A lot of our corners are on the older side, so we'll see. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, so he might be the exact kind of corner I like to go after. There's also Adonis Monroe, who is a day 3 talent. And then at free safety, Nazir Reed, another round 1 to 2 projection, similar size to the corner. But do we need that safety? I feel like we're pretty good at safety. So right now there is one round 1 projection, or round 1 to 2 guy, and then the quarterback in Joshua Webster. Hopefully those two end up panning out, and then some offensive line talent. Now offensive linemen in the 3rd or 4th round could be low-level starters, which hopefully they do end up being. But I think with the multiple first-round picks we have now, I think we do need to make a trade for the offensive line, and we just talked about it in the draft in Darrisaw. However, right now they are saying that there are no trades that we could put together that they would even semi be interested in. But I want to test if that's actually true. As we do have 2 first-round picks, don't think we need that, so I'm going to put the later one in here. And then in the next year, we also have 2 first-round picks, but maybe we put in the second, and then, let's just go a fun 1, 2, 3 for one of the best possible linemen we could have. Are they interested in this offer? Well, apparently they actually were interested in making a trade. We'll send them a current 1, future 2, and then a future 3, and we'll bring in Christian Darrisaw. And before we jump into the Playbook creator, let's take a look actually at what we have starting here on both sides, offense, defense, and talk about the specialists. So offense, for the most part, is looking actually a little bit better, I feel like, than last year. We're up to a 77 overall. Gino, however, did regress a couple points. I want to say it was an 81, now a 79. But again, going to be focusing mostly on the running backs with Herbert an 80. And we already know that the rookie running back in Richards is a superstar. So those two getting out there is going to be really important. We do have Wicks as our starting number 1 receiver. Opposite of him, we are going to have Pascal, and then in the slot will be Zacchaeus. How many times we go out with 3? Probably not that often, most likely on either a 2nd and long or 3rd and medium or long. Probably what we'll leave it to. The offensive line, I think, is actually a little bit better than last year. Obviously, with the addition to Darrisaw, definitely helps that out. He actually comes in tied with the highest overall for our offense. Him and Teller both 86. Glowinski still going to be starting at center, and Sorsdahl, I don't remember if he was the guy that we signed in free agency or if it was Salderveri. Either way, we do have, those two are going to be pretty close, back and back to who gets this left guard spot, and whoever plays better will keep it. That's the lowest spot along this offensive line. And Moses did, I think, regress a little bit from last year, but 78, still solid starting spot. No Ali Cox and Woods will be the 1 and 2, and then potentially Woods will overtake Mo Ali Cox after this season, seeing how that goes. Defensively, not looking very good, at least up front for us. In the base packages, we will actually be starting the rookie in Leo Bush because he has some of the best strength / block shedding combination of any of the possible guys to start there over Barno and Snowden, and also Carter. On the other side will be Urban getting the start there. Tim Settle still starting. We'll see some Brown. So this defensive line is not looking very good. The highest overall is a 72 with the lowest being a 60. So we're going to focus majority of the staff points that we do have, 107 right now, to help out this defensive line. On the outside, we're going to have Fuller and Fuller be the main guys in the nickel, which we're probably going to be out with a lot. And then Douglas, who in base packages will be on the outside as the starting 2. we'll go down to the nickel. Linebackers, same as last year. Safeties, same as last year. So everywhere besides this front four does seem to be getting a little bit better. But that front four does change up a little bit when we go to more of the rushing downs, as Barno will go out as the starter. He has, I want to say, like 90 something speed, so hopefully we'll see some of that off the edge. He'll get some sacks for us. We have Snowden and Bush backing up. In the middle, we'll have Settle and Urban as he will slide down, and then Carter will start as an edge rusher on the outside. Hopefully that puts some of our best players where they can best utilize their talent. And then, as mentioned, Rasul Douglas will be our starting slot corner. So that is what the team is looking like right now. 77 looks like across the board. So a little bit better, I feel like, than last year. A step in the right direction. And we're going to have to create a playbook for this offense to also put their best step forward. And now, lastly, the playbook. I did go ahead and put all the plays in, and let's talk a little bit about it. So primarily what we're going to be running is going to be single back, strong eye, or weak eye. I did include some shotgun, and it is like the base shotgun packages. We're gonna be running doubles, eagle tray, and then did include an empty base. I don't plan on running anything out of it too often. And also a snugs flip, but again, don't plan on using that one all too often. So the most basic things for the shotgun, except for split wing nasty, which is I've included in most of my playbooks. We have some scramble type quarterbacks, so this is one that I just like to put in there that has a read option, a motion run down the middle, or a motion pass. Pretty much all the things you'd need in the playbook, we have it with these three plays. So don't plan on using it all too often, but it is in there to just add a little bit of spice. But like I mentioned, mostly we're going to be running two tight end or a tight end and a fullback set. So ace, we have ace pair as well. So two tight ends and the receiver off to that right hand side. We have a tighter formation and then a little bit of a wider set here, but still mostly going to stick with a lot of the two tight ends. We're going to see for a lot of these. Some of these formations I was not able to get rid of, like this one here, the wing pair, because still Madden hasn't fixed the entirety of the playbooks, where there's like the play action set and the conserve time set that we do not have the chance to edit in the play call script. I've gone through, I've added everything here, and pretty much it's a lot of copy and pasting, but essentially everything that we run on the base down will also run on second and medium and short, third and short, and fourth and short. Then when it comes to more of the long down and distance ones, so second and long, third and medium, fourth and long, fourth and medium, and then I think I even put it in for the 2-minute offense as well. But essentially, a lot of copy and pasting. Primarily going to focus on the run. We've sprinkled in some short, intermediate passes, some play action to go off the run. And hopefully, in general, this will end up working out much better for the squad. It's very much built for this team. It's reminiscent of the one that we used for the Florida only challenge, and used it on a couple other of the state only challenges as well on Madden 23. So that's what this playbook is going to look like. A lot of two tight ends, tight end and a fullback, a lot of just two receiver sets, sprinkling in a few three receiver sets, but primarily we're going to be using all the tight ends, the fullbacks, focusing in on our running backs, and hopefully that'll help out our offense and help out our defense, because we should be milking clock a little bit and they won't have to be on the field as often. So that is the playbook we are going to be using. But that is where we're going to leave this one off at today. We added some new players, mostly the impact guys coming through trades, although some of these draftees are actually going to be out there. Running back's going to get involved, the defensive lineman's going to be involved, and the corner that we drafted is next off the bench. So some impact definitely added, a lot of playbook change definitely going into effect, and hopefully that'll put us on a much better start considering we were 12-15 last season. So anywhere is pretty much up from here. So to make sure you guys don't miss out on how this next season goes, just hit that bell icon on the bottom right or scroll down, hit the actual subscription button, and make sure you tap that bell icon so you're notified of when these videos go live. This series is posted every single Wednesday and Saturday. I also have a traditional franchise going with the Rams right now. That one's posted every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So 6 full-length videos every single week. Make sure you don't miss out. Plus all of the shorts highlighting everything that happens in these series. So a whole bunch of content. Excited to get into season 2, where hopefully we see some much better play. So until then, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.